Hello everyone, welcome to the platform for inspired learners. My name is Adolf, I'll be your host. Today is our 42nd episode as regards our series at the platform for inspired learners. If it's the first time to hear this platform, please make sure you visit our site at pinlay.org. Pinlay.org. There you'll see our timetable for the past presentations and the coming presentations, of course, as regards our series, but also you have free access to access the papers for the past presentations as well as the coming ones, most especially the one for today. Besides, don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Pinlay Open, and there you will have a series of upcoming and updates from our platform. Yes, today we have not a visitor anymore, but one of our supporters, especially intellectual supporters of ideas and someone who provokes ideas, well known at Jordan University, Morogoro, Dr. Adolf Mihanjo. Once again, karibu sana. Today, we are going to hear from him and he's going to present on something. Of course, it's going to be an intellectual talk, so it's going to be a sharing, and it's going to present on something to do with a link between history and ethics. Is there a link between history and ethics? Can we link history and ethics? That's the basic question for today. Today we have guests and they're going to introduce themselves roughly, and straight away we're going to dive the presentation. Brother, welcome. Say your name, at least one name, then we can go on from the start.
I'm Ansgar Mtito.
Thank you, Emmanuel Kashumba.
Coming up now, we'll say his name and we're going to present the topic and just introduce, then we'll be there to engage. Welcome, Doctor.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me again to this kind of talk. Is there any link between ethics and history? Maybe we first have to know these two words, history and ethics. Maybe we could start from clarifying what is ethics as linked with the morality. The definition given by Thomas Aquinas says that ethics is the ordinance of reason proclaimed by the interior right of reason itself. So it's the ordinance of reason, the product of reason. And it's that reason that assesses what's right and is wrong. In that sense, we may say if ethics is an ordinance of reason proclaimed by the interior right of reason, so ethics is the product of reason. Ethics is the product of reason. Now, if ethics is the product of reason, what types of ethics do we actually know or we can classify? There is descriptive ethics, normative ethics, and meta-ethics. In descriptive ethics, we are speaking on handing down over of some values, traditional values, from one generation to another generation. And this handing over of those values, one generation to another generation, a person does not consider history. There is no relation between this handing down of values with the order of reality, the ontic order of reality. In other way, ethics here become a stagnant thing, a static thing, a thing that does not change with the change of time or with the change of event. And ethics here are not connected to events. There is no link between the ontic order and the moral order. By the way, by the ontic order, I mean that the order of reality and the order of perception of what is right and wrong. In this sense, the ethical thinking becomes cyclical, and the ethical perceptions is tied to the traditions, is tied to the customs. And one becomes insensitive to the signs of the time. In other words, one is left behind with the time. In that sense, a person who is living that is always prone to hypocrisy and you produce an idiotic mind, idiots, because people are not able to reflect the dictates of time, even the motion of reality, and they are always left behind. Then there is another kind of ethics, what we would say is a normative ethics. Normative ethics is the ethics, the rules and norms that guides people's behavior or actions. And sometimes they are called professional ethics. The norms, the rules that guides people's behavior, that guides people's contact of reality, of contact of the thing, the contact of things in their specific realm. In this sense, you have doctors' ethics that conducts the behavior of the doctors. You have nursing ethics that direct the behavior of the nurses, and so on. It's possible that traditional descriptive ethics could also fall within the normative ethics, in as much as there are rules and norms that guides people's behavior, that guides people's contact. There's that. Both of the two, descriptive ethics and normative ethics, do not necessarily require the end reflection, meditation, and contemplation. It will be simply the response of people's threat of the environment, or the requirement for survival, that we put this because we want to survive, or the reaction of people's ontological disposition as they are pushed by the desire of pleasure and avoiding pain. Can also be possible. It's placed there for the interest of those who are in power, the mighty one. So that's not necessarily engage reflection, meditation, and contemplation. But then you come to the last one, it's the meta-ethics. Meta-ethics is proposed on the basis of the assumption that knowledge is the union between the mind and the facts. So the mind and the facts are independent, but they are in union. The union of the two produces the so-called knowledge. In other words, knowledge is a product of the synthesis between mind and the reality. In this sense, reflection then going into the unity. Reflection is the journey going into the self. In order to understand the non-self. So to go into the self, to understand the self, also to understand the non-self. So the non-self is that which actually makes the self again. So going into the self, three things is obtained. You know yourself, you know the world, and you know the other. Because the self is the unity of both. So that's what the reflection is going into. It requires a kind of introspective. Now, there are two kinds of reflection. You have concomitant reflection, and you have also subsequent reflection. In concomitant reflection, a reflection is done before the act is committed. It means that one has to have a clear perception, clear understanding of the nature of the action, the nature of the effect, but as well as the nature of his own mind. In order, not only his own mind, but also the nature of the reception, those who are going to receive that action. So it's a combination of factors to know. And so when one performs an act, it's clear of the possible act that will become, or possible effect. In all angles, he has a prior knowledge of the effect. And that requires a capacity for abstraction, a capacity of a total understanding of reality as it is, and not as I wish it to be. And to make an interior evaluation of that act. This is what we call concomitant reflection. On the other part, you have subsequent reflection. In this sense, reflection is done after an act has been performed. So, for instance, one goes urinate somewhere and has no total understanding of the direct effect that is going to generate, even a long-term effect going to generate. He comes on to reflect after the effect has come. This is the the low level, the lowest level of reflection. In this sense, in simple reflection, one has no prior knowledge, clear knowledge of what are the possible effects that is going to happen. He has not engaged a certain navigation, mental navigation, on the act that is going to do. Only he comes to reflect after the act has been done. In most cases, is going to make a lot of blunder. And it's too late to repair. So this is all about reflection. But then I said about also meditation. We can define meditation as the elimination of the constraints of matter. Elimination of the constraints of matter. What does it mean? A reality comes to you with both the idea within it and the social, the historical, and the cultural context. You have the reality there, the idea itself. That idea may come to you with historical, embedded within social, and embedded within cultural context. Now, when we say meditation, the elimination of the concept of matter, the elimination of this context, the elimination of the historical, the elimination of social, and the elimination of culture, you remain with the idea itself. Now, it is through that idea itself you are able to see clearly the effect, to see clearly what it is, to see clearly what it is and what it ought to be. You are moving from what it is to what it ought to be. What it is appearing to you in a certain conditions, in a certain cultural, in a certain historical, in a certain social. In other words, meditation is going to the essence. Example of meditation is we take up Cartesian meditation. In the Cartesian meditation, with the dictum cogito ergo sum, when Descartes engaged into meditation, he was trying to eliminate all the constraints of idea imposed by history, imposed by intellectual traditions, and imposed by culture. To see the idea in itself without that imposement. It's there after excluding everything, after eliminating all the experiences. He comes to realize that there is only one thing. Reason tells me that doubting is a form of thinking. And then, by the principle of causality, I cannot think without existing. So I have first to exist, then to think. Then with the conclusion, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I exist. Again, it involves an element of abstraction. The other thing I said, it is contemplation. Contemplation is trying to project reality, to project events from what it is and what is possibly to come. What are possibly to come, from what it is and what is possibly to come. That requires a total knowledge of what it is. And within that total knowledge what it is, a total knowledge of the possibilities. That if this is the case, what are the possible things that might come out of it? Again, it requires a knowledge that transcends time and space. The capacity to think, and that capacity has to transcend time and space. This also requires a level of abstraction. So, in saying so, now, you find now an ethical, you find now from the definition, from the meta ethics, you find the reality is dynamic. As long as reality is in the fluxivity, also ethics is also in the process of fluxivity. As long as the ontic order, the order of reality changes, also the ethical order changes. How does it change? Now, what remains? It's impossible for one to attach to history to history or to events without imposing, without the mediation of meditation, reflection, and contemplation. Since the events happened, they are there. Events are there. History are the motion of events. Events are there. And the events, as they are there, they are value neutral. They are neither good or bad. Value neutral. We come on to deduce the value of them after reflection, meditation, and contemplation can reduce the value of them. The one who produces history may have a certain intention producing that history. But once the history is produced there, it retains autonomy. It goes beyond the intention of the producer. It goes beyond the intention of the producer. It retains the autonomy. And they cannot impose its intention to the person who is going to draw conclusion out of that historical event he has been produced. And the result of that, the result of that reflection will also create another history. Create another history. So though history is produced by by a person, but once it's produced, the person has no more authority to the history as produced. It retains autonomy. It's possible that the one who produced that history had the intention Suppose that's history. Look, for instance, Hitler in waging the Second World War. He had the intention. He produced history, and he has the intent to produce that. Maybe to redeem the German from the economic hegemony of the Jewish people who controlled the economy. But did Hitler had the power to tell people that what I did is not the way your conclusion says? After the Second World War, people, after reflecting the effect, reflecting everything, they came with another history. The creation of the League of Nations and later the United Nations. So new history was created. Hitler may not have intended in doing that. Then I'm going to actually to facilitate or to instigate the creation of the United Nations. Might not have known that. And that was his intention. He intended to do that, to eliminate the Jewish, and also to claim the superpower of the world. So you see how history is dynamic. Now, coming to that now, to the question where she said, can we tie history with ethics? My answer is yes and no. It is yes, in as much as ethics is the work of reflecting, meditating, and contemplating on the historical events. So the relation between history and ethics is only mediated by the act of reason. It's mediated by the act of the interior right of reason. In that case, in the way of mediations, that's mediated, yes, it's possible. But it's not possible to tie ethics with history in a sense of direct relation, without mediation. Since history are the events, past and present, events does not only remain in past. Even when it was approaching the past, the ontic relations, the situation that provoked that kind of thinking may not be the same as the situation that provoked that kind of thinking now. The way people reduced the ethical order, the way people of that time were reduced the ethical order from the ontic order may not be the same. Because the ontic order, the order of reality now has changed. It's not the same the order of reality where we reduce the ethical order or the moral order. In that sense, traditional ethics, descriptive ethics, and normative ethics assume a kind of static. Assume a kind of staticity of reality. Assume that reality is static, not dynamic. But reality is static, not dynamic. On the other hand, reality is dynamic. So, upholding ethics on the ground of holding history on the ground of normative ethics, on the ground of descriptive ethics, is leading us to a total disaster. Because in the process, it's creating hypocrisy. You are making people do things that they have no imagination. You are making people follow things that they have no imagination. Two things happen. You are creating hypocrisy. You are creating idiots in the process. People have no critical capacity, not even creative capacity. Because critical capacity depends on meditation, reflection, and contemplation. This one, descriptive ethics and normative ethics do not necessarily need reflection, necessarily need contemplation, necessarily need meditation. They only need instinctual desire. Instinctual desire to protect yourself. And it may work on the interest of those in power. It may work on the interest of those who are in command. It may not work on the interest of the common good. Not work in the interest of the common good. Something to work in the interest of the common good, one has to engage reason, to navigate reason through the act of reflection, the act of meditation, the act of contemplation. In actual fact, when you create an uncritical mind, when you create idiots, the two uncritical mind and idiots, it is a short in saying that you are creating people who have no sense of contradiction. You are creating a sense of contradiction, and you are also creating people who are parotas. They are not able to reflect on what they see. They are not able to meditate on what they see. They are not able to contemplate on what they see. So they are simply parroting what they've been told. And because there is difficulty, there is ontological difficulty when one is detached from his ontologic order. When one is detached from his ontologic order, automatically you detach him from the basic element of critical evaluation. But you are going to evaluate on what? But you are going to evaluate on your ontologic order. And you are detached from your ontologic order, from your order of reality. So you are going to evaluate on what? So you find yourself, there's nothing to evaluate. So you are simply, I can say, you are simply being there, like a thing. Like a thing. In this world, we have two kinds of people. There are people whose concern simply to be. Simply to be. And these people are no different with stone. The stone are there. Simply to be. But there are also people whose concern simply to be with the life. They are concerned to be with the life. Not only to exist, they exist with life. So their concern is only to live life. These kind of people, there's no difference with the pigs. Not different with the tree. Tree has a life. Pigs has a life. There are people, the highest level, people whose concern is not only to live, not to be, not only to live, but to live with values. To have a life that is well examined, well reflected, as Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worthy living. To live life with meaning. And these are people who live life with meaning. They are the people who create ethics, who create realities, who create values, who create values, who make the other people simply to be, to live, fit into. Those people are simply to live, simply to be. They are spectators of the world. They are spectators of what's happening. What's happening? They are spectators. And they are ruled. They are controlled by the people who seek life with meaning. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor, for a wonderful presentation, wonderful introduction, quite rich, quite enriching also, with a lot of facts, authentic ideas, and provoking questions. For example, trying to reflect the relationship between ethics and history. You talked on a lot of things. You mitigated reflection, meditation, contemplation. I don't know why you went through that. Perhaps you have been in a society which engages in these things because they are new to most people, especially this dynamism. Perhaps because you are a phenomenologist also. I've had an idea as you are presenting, especially as you linked between reason and ethics, trying to see as if there is no ethics without reason. And one of the products of the essential product of reason should be something ethical. I don't know, something like that. And so if reasoning brings us to something, a realization of something ethical, then we can think that people who are in a sense of contradiction, as you noted, people who are unaware, I would say, in other words, are now unaware of what is right and what is wrong, are likely to be unethical. I don't know. Are likely to be unethical. People who don't know what is right and wrong, because ethics is just the knowledge of what is right and what is wrong, what is just and what is unjust. Regardless, of course, that also changes with time. So that's what was just in 1920s or in 1500 AD, BC may not be just today. For example, there is a good example of how history links with ethics. Is one of the famous examples is the question of slavery. Slavery was something common times of Plato, times of Aristotle. It was even a class, a rank in classes of people, a social class, normal, ordinary. It's okay to have a slave at home. It's okay. But today, calling someone a slave, this is my slave, introducing to a visitor, someone visits you at home and say, this is my slave. Oh, that's different today. So ethics has changed. Ethics changes with time. I think ethics is one of the vulnerable part of history. So I think you can keep engaging, but I really like the way you introduce the flexibility of history, the flexibility of ethics. The flexibility of ethics. I think that's why we have had questions these days of LGBTQ questions. These things are not topics of debate, say 400 years back. But today they are quite controversial things. Once you introduce something like LGBTQ topics, you touch really the things that are controversial and need much reflection. That shows that really time is questioning ethics. Time is questioning ethics. History is questioning ethics. And history is putting ethics vulnerable. Now, of course, I'm going to invite colleagues here to engage. But that was my contribution, and I think we can keep engaging, especially maybe I'll touch on something later to do with the static nature and dynamic nature of reality, because that one reminds me of my favorite philosopher. Sorry if it's not yours also. Placid Temperance introduced the question of static reality of being as the metaphysical notion, and the dynamic reality of being as the metaphysical notion, of course. So maybe you can check on that also, having to do with ethics later. Now I welcome anyone else. Perhaps you can begin somewhere rather there.
Thank you very much, Doctor.